Hold on, I'm just going to take a moment. Go fully founder mode. I'm just going to take a moment to dismiss the opinions of everyone else in my life.
Oh! All right, Kevin, are you ready to go founder mode?
I sure am.
You know what? Founder mode is not just something that's incredibly fun to say and just a word you can use to justify any behavior. It is also the subject that Silicon Valley has been obsessed with as they debate an essay by the venture capitalist Paul Graham called Founder Mode.
Yeah, so periodically in the tech world, there are just kind of these ideas that catch fire and become very central to the tech industry's sort of conception of itself, how founders and CEOs and investors think companies should be run. And we've seen a number of these over the years, but this one, founder mode, has really taken hold over the past week. It's all anyone is talking about on my feed, at least.
Yeah, founder mode is kind of the Hawk Tua of venture capital this year. And if that means anything to you, I'm sorry. So look, what was this essay? Well, look, Paul Graham, who is often called PG, that's how he's known, was a co-founder of Y Combinator, the very successful, influential Silicon Valley incubator that gave rise to Dropbox, Airbnb, Stripe, and many other companies. And he wrote an essay recently that was based on a talk given by Brian Chesky, the CEO of Airbnb. And in that talk, Brian Chesky said that he had come to believe that he'd been given really bad advice about how to run a company. And that the conventional wisdom on how to run a company is you should hire great people and get out of their way. Just let them run, right? I've heard this myself many times over the year. This is the way to be a good manager, right? Hire good people, get out of their way. And Brian Chesky did that, and he felt like it started to have really bad effects for the company. All of a sudden, he was less aware of what was going on. The company's performance started to tank. And so, Kevin, that's when he decided he had to go founder mode.
And how would you explain founder mode to someone who has never heard of it?
I mean, if I wanted to be glib, I would say it's micromanaging. If I wanted to be less glib, I would say, well, instead of just delegating almost everything to a bunch of trusted lieutenants, you decide you're really going to keep your hands in all of the details. And one of the ways that Chesky has described it is, I don't want my company to be working on anything more than I personally have focus for, right? So we're not going to have a million different businesses that I know almost nothing about. We are going to keep it limited to my field of view, and that is what is going to bring us success over the long run. And PG picked up on that and ran with it. And I think he probably ran further with it than Chesky would have. But he really situated it in this debate that Silicon Valley has been having for the past few years now, which really comes down to how much power should employees have versus how much power CEOs have.
Yeah.
Right? This is a discussion that we've had before in the context of like how Elon Musk changed Silicon Valley after he bought X, right? He came in and he said, you employees, you've had too many ideas. I'm going to go founder mode. He didn't actually say that, but he acted as if he had, right? I'm going to go founder mode, and I'm going to be the sort of the last word on everything around here, right? It really galvanized a lot of people. And I think Paul Graham sort of sees something similar in Brian Chesky.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that I've been sort of observing for a few years now. When Elon Musk took over Twitter, I think a lot of people saw that acquisition as a disaster and his management of the company as being an example of how not to run a business. But I also started hearing from sources in Silicon Valley who were founders and CEOs and investors, people with stakes in large successful businesses who actually looked at what Elon Musk did at Twitter and said, that actually is appealing to me. So Elon Musk, in a way, like became kind of a management hero. Basically, the bosses of Silicon Valley were kind of rooting for what Elon Musk did at Twitter to succeed and wondering if they could do a similar version of that at their own companies.
Yeah, and of course, I don't think PG's essay would have taken off had he only said CEOs should have more power or they should be more involved in their businesses. In order for it to really take off, he would have to denigrate someone, and that people wound up being the managers that these CEOs hire to delegate some of their work to. And here was his quote. Hire good people and give them room to do their jobs. Sounds great when it's described that way, doesn't it? Except in practice, judging from the report of founder after founder, what this often turns out to mean is hire professional fakers and let them drive the company into the ground. So that is the quote, I think, that explains why Silicon Valley got obsessed with this, because, of course, there are way more managers than there are founders. And Silicon Valley and Y Combinator in particular are obsessed with the cult of the founder, right? These founders are these almost religious figures who sort of step into the world with a brilliant idea, and they give rise to these empires. And Y Combinator is always sort of promoting this idea that it is the founder from which all innovation springs. And there were a lot of managers who had something to say about that, which was essentially, PG, you're going a little crazy here.
Right. I mean, I think we should just say like why it matters that people in Silicon Valley are talking about founder mode all of a sudden. And to me, the real stakes here are that the sort of workplace and management trends that start in Silicon Valley often spread throughout the economy, right?
Sure.
I mean, years ago, Google, some HR executives at Google had this idea about bringing your whole self to work, right? That was like a line that was very popular at Google for basically telling people, you're not just a corporate drone. We want you to be yourself. We want to create this sort of safe psychological environment for you at work. And that rippled out to all these other companies in all these other industries that had nothing to do with tech. And so if your manager at your, shipping company or your restaurant started all of a sudden talking about bringing your whole self to work, that was because of something that had happened at Google years earlier.
Yeah, I brought my whole self to work and they asked it to leave.
So I think it really matters. This is just one essay. This is just a small number of companies who are sort of talking openly about this idea of going founder mode. But I think it really speaks to a frustration that a lot of executives in a lot of different industries are having, and it may signal a kind of shift away from this other mode where you delegate work to people, you hire talented people, and you give them room to run.
Absolutely. Now, by this point in the discussion, Kevin, I imagine that a lot of listeners are out there wondering, what mode is my company in right now, and what does that mean for me? So I thought I could present a series of business case studies to you in a new game I'm calling Founder or Flounder.
Let's do it.
Okay, so in this game, I'm going to present you with the business case study, and then you will tell me whether this is a case of a founder in founder mode, or flounder, a flounder maybe stepping a little bit too far away from the reins.
I thought flounder mode was when you just decide that you're going to solve an organizational problem by like diving to the bottom of a pool and just kind of laying there for a while.
That's a different kind of flounder mode. There's also one where you just watch Finding Nemo. But in this one, I want you to tell me when the CEO is maybe not doing the best job. Okay? Ready? Great. Okay. Case study number 1. The year is 1996. Struggling Apple CEO Gil Amelio negotiates a deal to buy Next Computer, a fledgling company run by one Steve Jobs. Jobs comes back to the company, dramatically reduces the number of products the company makes, and goes on to revive the fortunes of the Mac, invent the iPod, the iPhone, and the iPad. He helped maintain his focus by denying the paternity of his daughter Lisa for several years, illegally driving without license plates, and berating his engineers. Founder or flounder?
Founder mode, baby. Okay. I mean, that is the classic example that is always cited by these people of someone who was sort of the archetypal founder mode CEO. And Steve Jobs, as we know, was not a pleasant person to work for all the time, but he got results. So I think a lot of people have sort of said, well, why don't we learn from him as an example?
Very good. All right, that leads us to case study number 2. The year is 2007. And a couple guys say, hey, what if we let people stay in our apartment and we gave them breakfast? The company they called Airbnb. And recently, we have a clip from the CEO, Brian Chesky, talking about what he thought he should do to get his company back on track. Let's play the clip.
So what I used to do is I was very hands-off. I thought my job was like strategy and capital allocation. And here's the weird thing. The less hands-on I was, the more I got sucked into problems. And by the time I got sucked into a problem, it was like 10 times as much work. So then I decided I'm going to do something different. I'm going to do very few things, and I'm going to be involved in every single detail. I would review everything. So I had these things called CEO reviews. And every single project in the company, I had a program management function, and I would review everything either every week, every 2 weeks, every 4 weeks, or every quarter. And then we'd track the progress, and then, then everything would ship on a single deadline. Initially, people hated this. No one wanted to collaborate. People didn't want to have imposed deadlines on them. They were wondering, why are you meddling? Like, why are you reviewing all the work? But eventually, it created a culture. And I was trying to teach a sense of quality. I was trying to be like the editor or the orchestra conductor.
And that was Brian Chesky on the This Week in Startups podcast last year. Kevin, the result of this is a company whose stock declined 19% in the last year and is now trading around $115, which is about the cost of the cleaning fee for a 2-night stay in an Airbnb. So, Kevin, founder or flounder?
I mean, this is also founder mode, right? This is Brian Chesky talking about how he took Airbnb from a manager mode company to a founder mode company. In the process, probably, causing some frustrations for people on his team, but it seems like also resulting in a company that he's much happier with. What do you think of this?
Well, he does seem really happy. And look, Brian Chesky, a tremendously likable guy, very well regarded as a CEO, I think for good reasons. And and yet at the same time, I think it's important to point out, financially, this company is not in great shape. It might be more fun to run, but it's not exactly Apple yet. So I think sometimes these founders get it into their heads that if I just had more control, I could build a juggernaut. And in the case of Airbnb, I just kind of wanted to point out, not really a juggernaut quite yet. Yeah. All right, Kevin, I got one more for you. I'm going to paint you a vision. The year's 2003. A brilliant young entrepreneur from Stanford sets out to improve the healthcare industry by focusing on an incredibly common product, the humble blood test. Kevin, why draw an entire vial of blood with a painful needle when you could simply prick someone's finger and run the entire test on a single drop of blood? This is the question that Elizabeth Holmes set out to answer, and with her partner Sunny Balwani, the duo would go on to raise more than $700 million for Theranos. And were they beset by doubters and haters on all sides? They were. Did people say, that's not safe, or your technology doesn't work, or you defrauded your investors? You bet they did. But while I haven't checked in with Theranos since 2018, you have to admit, it does sound like a pretty cool idea. So Kevin, founder or flounder?
I mean, I think this one started with founder intentions, but maybe became more of a flounder as the blood test didn't work.
It really did. And I bring this one up because I just want to say once again, founder mode can go wrong, right? There is a reason why sometimes we want to involve more people in decisions and give more managers visibility into what is going on at every level of the company. And that is that sometimes these people, they can get some pretty crazy ideas in their head.
Totally. Yeah. I was actually so entertained by the debate around founder mode this week that I created a founder mode translator.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So basically, I said to ChatGPT, I created a custom GPT, and I gave it, I said, read Paul Graham's essay about founder mode, and then sort of make a translator where when I input something, you sort of spit out what it would sound like if someone who's dedicated to founder mode said it instead. So I thought I would just read you a few of these.
Please.
So, so one of the prompts that I gave my founder mode translator was, "Hey Sarah, do you know if we're getting more Keurig pods for the coffee machine this week?" Here's what that sounds like in founder mode. "Sarah, coffee pods? Keurig pods? We're not here to wait for caffeine to just materialize like magic. We're here to build an empire. If the coffee machine is running low, that's not just a supply chain issue. That's a sign that we're too reliant on traditional systems." It's pretty good.
Hell yeah, brother.
Okay. All right. My next prompt was, "Hey, Rob, any progress on that PowerPoint deck? I really need it to show at the board meeting next week." And this is what it sounds like in founder mode. "Hey, Rob, forget the PowerPoint. If the board needs slides to understand the vision, they're the wrong board. We're building a company, not a middle school presentation. Tell them the plan in 5 sentences, no fluff. If they don't get it, maybe they don't belong on the ride."
That's an important point of founder mode is just constantly threatening to fire everyone. So that really did nail it.
And then the last one I gave it was, "Hey, boss, my colleagues and I are unhappy about our pay and working conditions and are considering unionizing. Any thoughts?"
Oh, boy.
And my founder mode bot said, "Unionizing? Let me stop you right there. The moment you start thinking about forming a union, you're admitting you're not playing the game at a high level. This company is a rocket ship. And if you're not here for that, you're missing the point. Want more? Earn more. Results speak, not demands."
Wow, the National Labor Relations Board just filed a complaint against that answer, actually.
So obviously, we're having a lot of fun with this, but I do think this is something that is worth keeping tabs on because on one hand, like this is complaints about bureaucracy and middle managers are some of the oldest complaints in the world, right? It's like everyone hates bureaucracy. It's a very popular thing to rail against. And if you're a venture capitalist or someone who, runs a big tech company, like, of course, it's in your interest to lionize founders. But at the end of the day, like, I just can't help but thinking that these are it's a very paranoid ideology, right? It's saying that, like, these people who you've hired to manage your business for you are in fact working against you, right? They're like a secret, deep state within your own company that has to be sort of, eliminated or weeded out because only you, the founder, can be trusted to make the strategic decisions that really make the company. And look, that's, if you build a company, if you start a company, that's well within your rights to do. But like the argument on the other side is, well, if you look at the companies where the founders have a lot of top-down control, their employees are often very unhappy, right? That is not a recipe for people feeling like they are empowered and valued if you have the CEO or the founder constantly looking over your shoulder and second-guessing you and micromanaging. And I would actually love sort of a comparison chart of like the correlation between companies where the founders go founder mode and like employee satisfaction, right? Because that seems like it would be a very interesting data point in all this.
Yeah, I think there's a really benign version of this, which is that some founders should rethink the things that they have delegated and the amount they have delegated and maybe reclaim some decisions that they once entrusted to other people. I think that's a totally normal and fine idea, and we'll be having that debate forever. And then I think if you take this idea to its logical conclusion, it turns into America is a king, which is another idea that circulates in Silicon Valley, and I think it's really toxic and dangerous.
It also feels very rooted to me in the economic situation in the country, right? For years, we had an environment where there were many more sort of openings for tech employees than there were people who wanted those jobs, right? Companies needed to be worker friendly because they were trying to attract talent. And so people, don't want to go work for companies where they're going to be like treated as peons. They want to go places where they have agency and control and authority, and they can sort of run their own little part of the empire. And in that sort of world, it makes a lot of sense to position your company as being very friendly to workers. But now we have a situation where things have turned a little bit. A lot of these companies have done layoffs. They're a lot smaller than they used to be. And so the leverage is just shifting from workers back to bosses. And so I think in that way, it makes a lot of sense that the bosses are starting to say, wait, why did we give our employees all that power again? And should we be taking some of that back?
Absolutely. So if we want to have a check on founder mode, we are going to need to bring back zero interest rates. So
It's
if
very
the Fed
important.
could do anything about that, we'd really appreciate it.
Yeah.
I could also refinance my house.
By the way, if you're watching this video and you like what you're seeing and you want to find more of our episodes, you can subscribe to the YouTube channel. Just hit the button below or hit the bell to be notified when new episodes come out.
I'll say it. It's what a founder would do.
It's true.
Be like a founder. Subscribe to Hard Fork.